So thank you so much for coming. My name is Matt Kasnick. I'm the Managing Director of Animationist Film. Thank you. This is a film festival that wraps today, the 2022 edition, our 5th edition, which wraps today with a special sneak preview of Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio, which you are all here to see. I know you're not here to hear me speak, so I'm going to keep this really quick. The festival wrapped last weekend in Hollywood. It is a celebration of animation as a cinematic art form on par with live action. That's what we're here to celebrate today. That's what we're here to celebrate all the time. We need to stop using the word animated as a qualifier when we're talking about the best films of the year. We should start screaming that from the audience. So I just have 3 quick housekeeping things, and then I'm going to turn it over. Please turn off your cell phones. You work hard all week. You have earned the right to be unreachable for a couple of hours, so let's do that. We also request that there'll be no photography during, obviously, the screening, but also during the Q&A. No photography while this is happening, please.
Seated, please. Permanecer sentados, por favor.
Join me in welcoming Phil Tippett and the director of the film you just watched, Guillermo del Toro.
¡Viva! Porque viva más cerquita.
Something like this. So, I got sent a whole sent a whole bunch of notes.
Screw that. Screw that.
Yeah, well, you know, that's what I was thinking.
Exactly.
So, I gotta forego all the accolades. You probably get enough, right? There aren't that many animations and movies in my book. I'm really a zealot. I don't like very much stuff in general, but Svankmajer and Trinka and the original King Kong.
The Quays, I think. For me.
Yeah, no, I like
it. And it's 2 of them.
But, and you know, your Pinocchio transcend, I mean, they're magical. You get lost. You just get totally lost in the world building. And you don't see it. It's just a different animal, you know. And it's just like I can't put words to it. Ray Harryhausen called it surrealism. No, it's not surrealism. It's just a whole different way of creatively thinking, doing something like this.
I think Mark Gustafson and I were talking early on, and we said we gotta do it. We have to change some of the philosophy, not change it and revolutionize it, but I find I've been doing this 30 years, and I find that there's the reasonable solution, which is normally shit, and the crazy solution, which is normally where you find a little bit of gold, the way nobody's doing it. And I did those 8 rules, which I started early on Troll Hunters, a series for Netflix, and thank you. This is the theater. and it was about, for example, simple things like saying, I want to shoot characters listening rather than characters talking, because so often is an over and a reaction, you know, or little micro gestures. And we said, let's treat the animators as cast. They are actors.
Animators are actors.
Yes, yes. I gathered them together and I said, I can promise you two things. You're going to be the actors. And when I instructed them every day, I would say, this is what we want. This is the gesture. But if the puppet tells you something different, do it. I would say that every day, and Mark would say it every day. And it's because there is no other form of animation where the bond between the animator and the tool is so close.
Yeah, what I find with some animators, particularly like Chuck Duke, who was the lead animator.
Come on, you don't know, you still gotta applaud. Chuck is the crack.
No, I work with Chuck.
Good crack.
Yeah, I worked with Chuck for years, and I got the relationship down to, the character enters here, jumps over the fence, and goes out the door. See you later. I really don't direct. If I really have faith in somebody, what gives me a charge is to work with creative people, and if I have an idea, I'll just keep it to myself and just give minimal direction.
I gotta get there.
Well, because it's so, it all makes it worthwhile just to see what somebody else comes up with. And 9 times out of 10, it's nothing like what I was thinking. The backbone is there, but it's just like being a little kid, and being surprised.
It is, and I think, look, the older I get, the more I value collaboration in the most real way. And this is the first film feature I co-direct, and Mark and I did co-direct, and it was beautiful to learn to trust instincts. When directing the animators, we started a few rules, we broke a few others. We had animators that animated only one scene the entire run of the movie. So they went into a set and never left for 1,000 days of production. We gave characters to animators, said, you got Geppetto, go do Geppetto. We credited them at the same level on the front end cast because that needs to be done. And the thing that was really good, and you may appreciate this, is the first week before we started shooting, I said, you're not gonna get a single note from the studio, and we're not gonna preview, and nothing that we go for is ever gonna be screwed with. We were able to deliver in making it a sanctuary like that. So I agree with you, if you have great artists, you gotta let them come back with things they come up with. And I think directing, people say is only minutely instructing, but it's actually creating a play where everybody is creative, right? And what I love is we provoke the accident in live action. Here we have to animate it. And they had to feel confident enough to do it, like an actor would.
So, let's see. So you started this endeavor around 2008.
2006 we started. In 2008 we had already a screenplay with Matthew Robbins, and it had the tenets that you saw in the movie. I wanted the war, the loss of the child, the reincarnation through Pinocchio, because I thought it was interesting to have a father that begs for a child back and he doesn't recognize him when he comes back. And it takes the whole movie, and I certainly wanted to make an anti what Pinocchio had been before. Instead of enthroning obedience, disobedience. Instead of everybody teaches Pinocchio and he changes, he doesn't change as much. Everybody changes around him, blah, blah, blah. All that was around 2008, yeah.
My wife was in the editorial department on Amadeus.
Mm-hmm.
And so we'd go out to dinner with Milos Forman. And as a young filmmaker, I would ask him for advice, and he gave me, it was like 2 sentences. And it was the best advice I ever got, which was, if you want to take a good shit, you have to eat well.
I agree.
Yeah. And so that time that you spent conjuring this thing was, I mean, that's where the magic came from. You need to take time, to make magic.
And I think you need to have the voracity, just to complete the digestive metaphor. You have to have the voracity, the curiosity, and the desire to try to cram the world in 2 hours. So imagine the level of voracity, and every artist knows this. And I find it, we are in a place called Animationist Film, and we all believe that, because why the fuck not? It is, and it was birthed along with live action. It was pursued as an art up until it made a lot of money, and then it started to change. So I think everybody involved in this, for the love that we are involved, pursues that, and it's about voracity. Can I eat, cram, and eventually poop the entire world? Yes.
Yeah, and I mean, we're on the same page with this stuff, but so much of the animation that's being done now is like, I just hate, because it looks like computer graphics. What is the point of perfection when it looks like something else that looks like crap?
Well, I think, as you know, for me, perfection is one of the scariest things art can encounter, because it's only human if it's made if you have the imprint of the thumb, if you have the push of, and that doesn't mean that the tool is wrong, it's how you use it. And I think when you have a tool as preciously intimate as animation in stop motion, which is the way I started Super 8, my first Super 8's really crappy claymation. I was going to debut with a clay animation feature before Chronos. And unfortunately, my workshop, there are photos, plenty of photos, but got burglarized. And the burglars didn't find anything good, so they destroyed all the puppets that we built in 3 years. Oh. But if you have the clay, or you have the fur, or you have this contact with the material, and then you hide it, I don't understand it either, myself. And we made a point to give back to the animators the control of the faces through mostly 95% of the puppets is mechanical faces that the animator has to design. And people say, well, what's the difference? I say, the printed faces, for me, you have 1,000 choices, but the animator should be able to go to 1,001, 1,002, 1,003. You have to have that bond with the puppet where you can go on, not anywhere in a catalog, but where your instinct guides you. So we feel similarly about this.
Yeah, and what's really important for me, I mean, it's absolutely essential, is to work with people that have, like you, made tangible things, because there are no consequences with a computer. But an X-Acto blade,
or the silicon molding or demolding, or if the mold got stuck to the mother mold and you cannot demold it, or if there's I think what is great is I sculpted, I painted, I created the skeletons of all my stop motion models of youth. I to this day, every Sunday, my sacred ritual is I do model kits and I paint them and assemble them. I'm with friends and I say, well, people told me if I was a movie director, I would be surrounded by models. So here I am. I have a plane, a monster, a tank.
Well, and I found the analogies with real materials very helpful, because as you're trying to explain something, it's more like it's made out of balsa wood, not oak, and it really needs to be carved, but first the oak has to be put on the bandsaw, and then you plane it, and then you take it to the grinder. A lot of people don't know what that means,
Yeah, I think that when you know and you have done every part of the process, you have the intimacy with that result at the end, and through the process to reach this. And when you talk to people and you know what it takes to, for example, do the test where they're carving the wood or where they're cutting the bread, and you know what it means, and you know what, and you can suggest dragon skin or foaming the silicone, or let's use latex foam here because of this or that. There is an alchemy to that.
Yeah, and if like with an actor, if you're asked the questions, you do a lot of as ifs, or like when you're writing, well, it's like the difference between balsa wood, but it's somewhere between balsa wood and metal and clay.
Yeah, yeah. No, I remember when I was talking to Toby, Toby Froud, who is the baby in Labyrinth, by the way, and we were talking about a puppet, and we were talking about skeletons with McKinnon and Saunders or Georgina, and I would say, this puppet, give me a shoulder roll. Let's do a shoulder roll in the skeleton so we can have a gesture like this. And it's so, the difference is abysmally. The difference between the right puppet and the almost right puppet is a great actor or not a great actor, a day player, Yeah. And I think our hope was this, and I hope it happened today. We said, maybe people, if we do all these little things, eventually, 30 minutes into the movie, they will just think, these are great actors. Not puppet, not who's animated, but just, this is a good actor. And the same way that we gave birth to monsters, like when you were watching Harryhausen, you knew the size, but it was a great monster.
I didn't have any idea, and that was like, your movie and very few others. It's almost like you're being hypnotized and you're transported, and you're not thinking about what it is and how, I'm not at least, how cool the animation is. It's just like, being a kid in a candy store.
Same with me.
Yeah.
It happens to me, and we were 1,000 days in production, and every day I would go in the morning, I would check the shots from the night before, and it was like coming down for Christmas.
Yeah.
And every afternoon, no matter what I was doing, we would have to instruct the animators. We would have to launch 3-4 shots, and it was, everybody was leaving gifts. And I tell you this, in 1,000 days, and at the very end, not only the animators wanted to stay, we said farewell to animators 3-4 times. I said, you're still here? But also, they gave us their best shots all the way to the end. And some of them came from Mexico. We had an important contingent. And this is important because I'm 58 and I've come to the conclusion that the only thing that is important is what you leave behind. Not what you get, but what you leave behind. And in Mexico, I think we have incredibly talented animators. And through Pinocchio, we were able to formalize the participation of one workshop in Guadalajara, Mexico, with animators from there animating in a big feature film for the first time. And the camera that I bought as a kid, I taught animation in high school. I taught stop motion in high school when I was 17 to kids that were 15. It was not really, and then I bought 2 Mitchell NCs, and I formalized, I created a company that did makeup effects and animation for 10 years. I learned all the language, did all the jobs, and those cameras stayed in Guadalajara in service, serving all the stop motion animators for another 20 years.
Cool.
Yeah.
Where was I gonna go? No, I know. The problem is I keep thinking of like other questions and it cancels the rest.
Screw that shit.
What I'm thinking, that's just like off the map. Okay, I'll remember. Oh, no, it was apropos of what you were saying about working so closely with all these people. You become a family, and you don't want to say goodbye.
No.
And the people that I worked with on Mad God, we have our head of production is a really great cook. So we have barbecues every Friday. And the family stays together.
Yeah.
The kids come over for barbecue on Fridays, every Friday.
I have a crappy social life.
Oh well, our families are.
Is what we should. Yeah, yeah. No, I mean, I think that is a given. But what is beautiful is when it's rarely in live action. I mean, I never experienced what I experienced here. And the people I was working with, I was fans of before they came in. I was fans of McKenna and Saunders, Georgina, Toby, everybody. And Mark, I seeked Mark Gustafson because I adore him, and I love that he started with Will Vinton and all the story he has with claymation. And I'm finishing the movie. I'm a huge fan of this guy. I admire him and I love him deeply. And he is the best thing that could have happened to me. And you don't want to say goodbye. So, you know, and you know there is a chance in your life that you can never get that team back. We had the best of the best, the warmest of the warmest, and I don't know if it'll happen again, but that's why we make movies. When people say, it's not the glamour. What glamour? I'm eating cold turkey at 2 a.m. in the afternoon. It's this love. And I tell you this, in animation, we love each other and we love the art form. We are the craziest bastards in the world.
It's like being in a war where there's no bombs or bullets.
Yeah. A war of passion.
Yeah. Well, okay.
Yeah.
Let me say something about passion.
Let's go.
So one of my mentors was Ray Bradbury.
Yeah.
And over the years,
Come on.
I carried on a correspondence with him, you know, from 17 until 20-something, and Ray espoused his philosophy in the 60s, early 70s, which was love, love, love.
Yeah.
Like John Lennon,
Yeah.
do what you love, because if you do what you love and fail, you will be in a better place than if you took the fallback position.
Yeah,
like my uncle said, well, how many animators are there that you want to be like? Right? Harry,
Not enough.
One. Well, maybe you should be an art teacher. It's like, so nomenclature changes over the years, and it moved through the decades to follow your bliss and follow your that, and then of course follow your passion. So I looked up the word passion in the dictionary.
You know what you're gonna say.
which comes from the Latin patai, which means to suffer. And it is.
The Passion of the Christ is not a love story.
No, but for any creative people that lose themselves in their creations, it causes, I would say, 50-50 as much trouble as it, well, fortunately the good stuff.
But what a great trouble.
Transcends.
It's the good trouble.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think, if you forget the word bliss, but passion in the crucifixion sense, what a crucifixion, man. It's like, we crucify our personal lives. We crucify many moments of social interaction, but look at that.
Yeah.
I mean, I was raised Catholic, so I know what I'm talking about. I lapsed, by the way.
No, but even in high school, I forwent girlfriends and parties. I just had stuff to do, and I didn't need any distractions.
That's I think the difference, and the difference that to me, I say the times I've been transfixed, really like St. Paul in the road to Damascus, Frankenstein coming through the threshold, and the first King Kong on TV. I was like, what is this? The world was, if the world accommodated those images, then you follow an ecstatic calm. And I think it's not an exaggeration, because I think that animators, we are like spies from another planet that were sent to Earth to observe humans and reproduce their movements in the hope of understanding the emotions. It's a really coruscated, beautiful calm.
That should be your next movie. So jumping back to Collodi, he was the initial comic or whatever you call it of Pinocchio.
The weekly installments.
Was very well before that, wasn't he? He did one where Pinocchio gets hung and dies.
And that was the end. Yeah, like Conan Doyle, he killed him in the middle, and people said, "Bring him back." Yeah.
And
instead of hanging from a tree.
And then it became popular, so he just started, doing more and more, serials. And it was a morality play about industrialization and moving off of from agriculture, to industrial.
And the birth of country into
Yeah. No, so it was about being obedient and being a good boy and doing your lessons and because it was a huge movement. And like in Italy, they kind of were hamstrung because a lot of people were just leaving for the United States, so their youth was really precious to them and necessary for their survival. And
and then there is a layer of almost hermetic readings of Collodi, and it's a really interesting thing. But that's why I wanted, and for the first time in 30 years of career, I said the possessorial credit should clarify it, because you have Collodi's Pinocchio, Disney's Pinocchio, this is Del Toro's Pinocchio, and you're not going to expect either of the other two, because in many ways it goes counter to that. I mean, we follow some of the things that we took from Collodi clearly that nobody else had done is the constant crushing of the cricket, which is in Collodi, and I said, please.
Well, did Pinocchio at some point smash him with a mallet?
I don't recall that, but we
anyway, it's a good idea.
We knew it. And the idea of the black rabbits of death, which I thought was a phenomenal idea, and then we designed them with Guy Davis, who was an incredible designer, and one of the things I like from the weekly installments is the adventures, is the sharp turns the tale takes, and we wanted to preserve that. The dogfish, the way he's described in Collodi, the way I did it, there's a lot of Catholic imagery, and for me that fish is what the whale is to Jonah, is the things that are unfathomable and uncanny and huge. It can be war, it can be destiny. If you notice in the movie, eventually, when you see it again, all the things that are magical or otherworldly are blue. And blue is only used for those characters. The scarf of Carlo, the book of Carlo, the blue balloon that touches the pamphlet, blah, blah, blah. And I thought, let's do that, and then let's have Pinocchio resurrect, have the same missing limbs than the Christ on the cross, which is and make it a story about fathers and sons, which includes the worst form of paternalism, which is fascism. So if we can do all this, if we can combine it, that makes the song new. And I said, we don't want to do it like any other Pinocchio.
Well, it's even more relevant today, isn't it?
Yeah. And disobedience.
Frighteningly so.
Yeah, and disobedience is so urgent. I think what I love about Pinocchio is how pure a quantity he is. It's not about innocence or this, it's purity. It's like, I think when you enter the world and you are an uncontaminated quantity, whatever you bring to the world, you change it around you. Like, we've never understood what we should have done, ever, in different circumstances, but we were purely convinced that we could make these weird, strange movies, and the world never ended up saying no, because we just kept going in whatever form we got. And I think that's when people say, do you practice disobedience? Every goddamn day. Every day. And I think in 30 years, I knew I wanted to do a giant robot movie, a stop-motion animated movie, a ghost story, a gothic romance. And I've been able to do all that great, and I've written 32 screenplays. I've done only 12 movies, so Disobedience is not a great career, but it's a great life. It's a great life. And my hope, Phil, after Pan's Labyrinth, I said, okay, now's the time I'm going to do a huge detour back to animation. And I want to stay. I want to stay in animation because it is the call. I think, I started more than 10 years ago. I went and I said, I want to learn every part of the process. I went to DreamWorks, I produced, I consulted, I did all this. I did 3 TV series and a feature for Troll Hunters. I co-directed with Rodrigo Blas. All of that led to this. And I want to stay. Screw it. I want to stay.
Well, yeah, with live action, it's just one headache after the other.
Yes, right.
So,
Yes,
yeah.
Look, making movies is you eat a sandwich of shit. No matter what movie you're doing, there's more bread, less bread, a little more tomatoes, but it is always shit in there.
well, I'm a very slow thinker, and
So I like it. I like that too.
yeah, so it's just the animation really affords me, the time that I need to eat a good meal.
Yeah.
And
whatever follows.
yeah. So where was I going?
I like it.
Yeah, I'm just like.
All right. No, listen. What we have in front of us today is just an incredible act of love of hundreds of people, and that is what the difference is to say, look, animation as an industry there's no difference between any other industry. If you fall into something with cogs, it destroys the soft tissue. Doesn't matter if you're making furniture or packing meat. The word industrial is the grinding construction of shit nobody knows who needs. And I really, really think everybody in this room should follow their passion, in the biblical sense and in the common sense. Because and it doesn't matter what it is, and when we talk about disobedience, it can be small acts. Make it better than they allowed you to make it. Take an extra hour when they didn't give you the extra hour. Show them, I remember when we were at the DreamWorks, and I tried a couple of really crazy things, and Jeffrey Katzenberg said to me, you have brought more mortality to characters than the plague. Because we were talking about How to Train Your Dragon, and I was talking to Dean, and he said, what do you think I should do? I said, kill the dad. Kill the dad. In an animated movie, and Jeffrey said, what the fuck do you mean kill the dad? I said, kill the dad. Make the thing cost something. Yeah. The adventure should cost something. And we're talking about telling the truth or lies. I think that this is a movie that tries to deal with the spiritual reality of being yourself. And the only lie you cannot tell is who you are. So that's why there's the movie is built in symmetries. The pinecone, which is the human soul beginning, and a character that wants perfection, a tree that births Pinocchio, and a tree that saves them to get out of the whale. But that second tree comes out of Geppetto, stopping spouting things he read in a book and saying to Pinocchio, lie one time, my son, so we can get out of there. I think that.
Well, as filmmakers, we're good liars.
We have to.
But our nose don't grow.
No grow. But it's because we are 50% poets, 50% boxers. We have to last 50 rounds with a bunch of morons, and we have to keep the poetry intact. So we have to maneuver our way through that. But what I wanted today, and the reason I feel this is really important, is because of you. Because of this audience. And for me to be able to share this with you was exceedingly important. And with you, because this man is my hero.
I was giving a talk, a kind of a Q&A with Ray Harryhausen, years ago, and someone in the audience said, "Well, Ray, don't you find stop motion tedious?" And he said, "Well, no." "Phil, do you find it tedious?" "No." And I don't understand. I mean, I guess I understand, but I don't understand. People describe it sometimes as watching grass grow.
Wow.
But you get into this meditative state and you lose yourself in it. You warp time,
It's that and the fact that, I remember in Japan there is an art form of puppetry called bonraku,
Right.
which is the extension of the puppet, is the extension of the limbs of the puppeteer. This is as if by magic you're playing with your toys in the most amazing place that the world has ever seen. It is that intimate. How can that be tedious? And the other thing with the stop motion that the other forms of animation doesn't have, when the character moves from here to here, you start here, and you're gonna have to follow all the way to here. So you are intimately related to every moment of that trajectory without anything in between you. There's nothing comes between you and your Calvin Kleins. That dates me, by the way.
It never stops, and it's just like my beginnings at coming to terms with storytelling on a rudimentary level was my parents, would buy me these Marx play sets, for Christmas.
Soldiers and dinosaurs.
Well, so I get the dinosaur kit, and then you know what you do. You bury them and you melt them, and so you end up with, half dinosaurs, and then you get the Nazis and the U.S. and melt half of those, so now you got dinosaurs.
3/4.
And Nazis, and then you get cowboys and Indians, and blah, blah, blah. And so you just start, the mind just, it was really great training, to just get lost and lose the adult world out there.
In that story.
And just be in this miniature world, and you're just making stuff up, to entertain yourself.
That is what I love about Mad God. And I gotta say, the essential part of storytelling that is the hardest to come to is what you could term in fairy tales, and then, and that continuous play. Which Collodi has with his weekly structure is you go, and then this happens that you don't expect, and then that happens. And whether you're melting the soldiers or the dinosaurs are attacking, there is a purity to that and then that is very childlike.
No, it was really how I got started, and it just going back to this term passion. My superpower is that I'm bipolar, and I'm not.
Superpower is that I'm overweight. I don't want to move. I'd rather stay animated.
Yeah, so it's just I don't get depressed unless my dog dies. So I've been diagnosed as unipolar, and I'm just manic, and that is my superpower. I get up, jump out of bed. And after I have a couple of cups of coffee, it's just like bang, go back into it, and just don't stop. Don't bother me, go away.
You're incredibly fast as an animator. You're really fast.
Well, and but take Chuck Duke for example.
That's a plot again.
He's
I love Chuck.
He's very meticulous, and as one of my animators, Tom Gibbons, says he can animate atoms. He's just that good. But I'm more of a blacksmith. I just go in and like bang, 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 bang. While it's doing what I'm doing, then it's fine. And I don't use the frame grabbers or any of that.
None of them. No, but I think that each animator, and that's the beauty, each animator has a temperament. And when you think of you and Ray or Dave Allen, or anybody, whether it's O'Brien, each of them, their characters and their tessiture, the quality of their movement and personality is completely different. And I can tell you the Pinocchios or the Geppettos, depending on the animator, they changed.
Yeah.
So your temperament comes through that. It really is a signature. I can recognize your animation really rather easy and beautifully. You know, whether it's a second or two on Piranha, or there is a gesture of the dragon in Dragonslayer that is, it has emotion and majesty, you know?
Yeah, well, that's really strange to me because people do say, you know, like it's you, you know. I can see your style,
yeah.
You know, and I was just, I don't see it. But, you know, the canary sings one song, you know.
Yeah.
You know?
And I said in one of the people here that brought that song, and I want to mention it today because you guys, is Patrick McHale. Patrick McHale. Patrick is Pinocchio. And he really brought a lot of his personality and his, he has a very, very sophisticated understanding of the things that make a fairy tale, you know, from a Jungian narrative, Freudian.
Hello, hello, go away.
Same way. But I chose Patrick also, handpicked Patrick because he can do that. He can show you the darkest part of the forest and the lightest light of the sun, the shiniest light of the sun. And he's a great partner, and I want to thank him. I think they're saying they have another screening.
Well,
listen.
no, I think they're being respectful to the audience because they have to pee.
Why don't you guys come to the lobby and we keep chatting? That's correct. Thank you. See you there.
Oh, wait a minute. Hold on. You're not getting out of here. What's next?
Oh, well, I'm writing right now a big one, and I think I want to adapt. I have the book that I want to adapt to stop motion, and I talked to the author in London, and my hope is that if we can make it work like that, and it's again, it is fantasy of the kind you haven't seen animated or any other way. It's an incredibly good book, but in the meantime, I'm doing a feature, and if we do well with Cabinet of Curiosities, we'll put the suit again, and we'll go one more time. If you can stay and the Academy doesn't take my membership, I'll see you in the lobby. Thank you, guys.
They're ready for you to start. Oh, great.